All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of When Words Fail, Music Speaks. I am your useless or your endless source of useless music knowledge. My name is Blake Mosley. I've got my buddy and co-host James Cox here with me
Hey,
today. How you doing, James?
good. How are you? I am the Muppet Man,
The Muppet Man.
not James Cox, because I sound like a Muppet. But it's okay.
um, I can't even believe what's happening right now. Let me just get right into it. Today we are joined by a true drumming legend. August Burns Red has been one of the most prolific metalcore bands in the history of the genre, with two Grammy nominations and a discography spanning over two decades. Matt has been influencing drummers all across the world with his technique, myself included. And it's also been is also the host of one of the hosts of the Holy Ghost Notes podcast, a true gem of a show if you're a drummer like myself and also a believer. I can't believe I'm saying this right now, but welcome to the show, Mr. Matt Greiner, everyone.
You guys are making me feel really good about myself. Thank
How
you
are
for
you?
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
So,
course, man,
Matt,
of course.
I do want to talk to you personally, man to man, first of all, because
Yeah.
do you remember the day, July 26, 2002?
July 26, 2022. Okay.
Yes.
I'm guessing we were on tour. I don't
No.
remember.
Okay, so
Oh,
that was a day that I was highly unprofessional with you. I don't know if you remember it, but if you don't, thank God.
I
Because
don't remember this.
Okay, because I added you on Instagram, right?
Okay.
And then the first thing I asked you when you responded back to me, I'm like, "Hey, you want to come on the show? You know this show?" I'm like, and then you didn't respond for a while. I'm like, okay, well maybe I upset them or because the first thing I asked you was, "Can you come on the show? Not how are you doing and everything."
Yeah.
But that was 2 years ago, so I deeply apologize for that, and I'm so
Oh,
glad you can
okay.
remember that.
That's okay.
So
I'm
yeah,
glad we can
man.
make it work. I don't
Yeah.
even remember that. So it
Oh,
was
okay.
not
Yeah. Well,
upsetting at all.
it's my bad. I had to brought it back up because if I didn't bring it up, you wouldn't have never known.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, but we do
That's
love it
funny.
here on the
I'm glad we can
podcast.
laugh about it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's always a good time. Yeah. So, so let's get right to it. Since we have you on, we want to ask you about some questions. And first question is, you were homeschooled, which gave you more time to practice drumming at
hmm
the house. How did that unique learning environment shape your approach to both music and life compared
Wow,
to
what a
compared to the standard public schooling?
Yeah, what a great question. I think homeschooling, like you said, obviously allowed me to get my schooling done without all the extra fluff
Yeah.
and then get out to practice drums by, I don't know, some days I think I was practicing by like 12 or 1, but it wasn't just that I would practice drums. I actually started playing a little later in life. I was 14 or 15.
Mhm.
So I still had a couple years left in high school. But for me, it was just a matter of, I think, being driven and having work ethic, and a lot of that had to do with the farm. So
Mhm.
having school, I'd wake up and there's no one really saying, okay, you have to start. I would maybe get that instruction once from my mom, but then it's really up to you as a homeschooled student to drive. You can you can you can milk it pretty much as you want, depending on what your home life is like. Oh, I got all my school done, and you really didn't do much.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's where I think some of the downsides of being homeschooled, you can find some definite downsides. But if you have an independent, hardworking, driven person, homeschooling is incredible because now
Mhm.
you're not limited by just like the general broad stroke pace of everybody. It's you guiding and you driving, and you get the work done, and then you can move on. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for me, it just helped me focus on the things that I was passionate about. And it also helped my dad out a lot on the farm because he needed help. And so, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock came around and he was farming, and it's like, Matt, get out there. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to go farm.
Right. Yeah.
And then you grow up and you realize, wait a second, that's actually like all I want to do now is farm. So I think I'm going to buy the farm, and
Yeah.
and that'll
Okay,
be my hobby.
yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah.
I keep up with you on Instagram and I see like your farming posts and stuff and I'm like, man,
Right.
that is so cool and unique. Like, you know, I follow a lot of drummers just from who I've been influenced by for the past 20 years that I've been
That's cool.
playing drums. And you see their day-to-day life, and then like you pop up and you're like on a tractor, and I'm like, this guy. That's what I'm talking about. This is
This
so
guy
cool.
right here, man.
Well,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like I don't know what you guys would do that is high pressure, high stakes, a lot of other people depending on you, but
Hmm.
that's the way my career is with ABR. And
Yeah.
it's hard to see that from the outside looking in. You think it's just fun and games maybe, and
Hmm.
you're just, entertaining people. But there are a lot of things happening
Hmm.
behind, not necessarily backstage, but on stage. And
Yeah.
so when I go home and I go farm, it's like the stakes are so incredibly low,
Mm.
and I get some peace and quiet, which is really nice. And I
Sure.
get to, I don't know, I get to fill my lungs with this thing that
Hmm.
doesn't put a lot of pressure on me. And so it does a
Yeah.
lot of things for me. One is it gives me that fresh outlook on what I do. I'm really fortunate to do this. But then financially, it reminds you that like it's really hard to make money.
Yeah.
So it's easy to forget that being in a band for 20 years because we do pretty well for ourselves after
Yeah.
this much time. But when I'm home and I'm farming and we're maybe harvesting wheat, the byproduct of wheat, which is what we do wheat for, is straw. And
Hmm.
straw is sold in bales. We do small bales, and we sell them
Hmm.
for $5 each. The
Ooh,
amount of work it takes to get one straw bale is
a
a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
Yeah.
when I make money from a tour, in the back of my head, I think sometimes I'm comparing it to how many straw bales that would
Yeah.
take,
Yeah.
and what work I had to do to get that money.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
It's just such a unique thing. I'm sorry. Like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
so it's so
Yeah,
funny to think about, but
it is.
it's wild, man.
Yeah.
Totally wild.
I do have one question about you
Yeah.
also being homeschooled and okay, so how was your parents with you when they like, because obviously you play drums in the house, correct?
Right.
Because I went to you a funny story for one of my friend's mom. She bought him a drum kit, and she went to the
Hmm.
store saying, "Oh, this is not gonna be loud. I can handle this." Like, but when they got it home, she's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know this was so loud, dude." She was like, "Oh, what?"
Drums are
So
loud.
right, yeah. So were your parents like absolutely like 100% cool with you playing drums in the house, or did you play it
Whew.
like in the garage or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have seven siblings, so there was a lot of
Oh,
noise to begin
Got
with.
it.
I was the
Got it.
second oldest.
Oh,
My mom says that when I was 6 months old, I was sitting in the high chair. I was just like playing drums, which is funny now because I have a 13-month-old, our
hmm.
first, my wife and I's first, and she just sent me a video today of her like tapping on the table.
future
It's
They're in,
drummer.
starting.
Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
it's starting. They're on
Yeah.
vacation in Portugal, and she's just like bopping to this Portuguese music.
All right. Hell
It's
yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
So, I grew up and bought a drum set. I started with just a snare drum.
Hmm.
My
Yeah.
dad said, just play this for a year. I had like a black rubber practice pad on top of it.
Hmm.
And he said, play this for a year. And if you learn how to play Wipeout and a bunch of rudiments and you still like this, you can buy a drum set
Yeah.
after a year. So after a year, I was like, I don't really love this, but I
Yeah.
know I'm going to love a drum set. I want like kick pedals and cymbals and toms.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so I paid $850 for a Pearl export with a chrome finish,
Heck yeah.
huge rack toms.
Nice.
I had to
Yes,
like
sir.
bank them like Lars Ulrich, so it was like a
Yeah, man.
wall in
There
front
you
of me,
go.
which is probably part of the reason I play my toms kind of flat. Is I
Uh-huh.
didn't like that look and I didn't like how it felt, and so I went the other direction.
Yeah.
And man, I
Wow.
just need to shout out my parents. They'll probably never
Yeah.
listen to this, but um, they put up with a lot. And if you're a
Yeah.
parent and you're listening to this, you know how much patience you need just to be a parent. And then you add on like, oh, my kid plays this really loud instrument for hours and he's not good at it. And it's
Hmm.
just on repeat in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, mom and dad, for letting me play in the house for a couple years and then telling me to get out and go to the barn. That was a
There you go,
smart
man.
decision.
That's what's up. Yeah.
That
Oh,
is, it's so funny. I'm sorry, James. I hate to
yeah,
cut
yeah,
you off,
yeah.
but it's so funny how like your introduction to drums and my introduction to drums is actually very similar.
Is it really?
Yeah, like so I started playing we had a little fourth grade was the first year that you could try out for the band at the school I went to, the little orchestra.
Right.
And I wanted to do percussion. They stuck me on the snare drum, so that was my introduction to things. And I still have that snare drum. And then my dad, liked a lot of 50s music, doo-wop and Motown and things like that.
Cool.
And when he saw my interest in playing drums, and I've started listening to Blink 182 at a young age and interested in Travis Barker and all that stuff, he was like, "We're gonna get you a drum set. I'll pay for some lessons. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to learn how to play Wipeout." That was his exact
Hmm.
words.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was like no time before I was like trying to learn Wipeout. And
Yeah.
but I love that that is the standard for a lot of
Yeah.
parents. God bless the parents of drummers for sure. So
Yeah, it's funny. Isn't it funny that that song on drums is
yeah,
just something that stood out to my dad, or like maybe just people at large, like, that's a really cool drum
yeah,
part. And
yeah.
now, like, in my drummer mind and with my drummer friends, it's Bleed,
Yeah,
by
bleed.
Meshuggah,
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Meshuggah.
sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is quite a bit harder than
yeah.
Wipeout.
I
Yeah.
I always tease other drummers and artists. Do you want more sugar? Do you want more sugar in your coffee? And they're all
That's
I'm like
clever, James.
that's
That is
yeah.
so
I'm like
clever.
no,
Yeah, I
that's
like
not.
that.
That's been used over and over and over again. But
Oh man.
so let me ask you this, Matt. So you've often spoken about the importance of positive messaging in your music.
Mhm.
Um, have there been times when it was challenging to maintain that positivity, especially during low points in your personal life and the band, band moments?
It's a great question. You have a lot of good questions, man. This is a really special podcast. I can tell you put time and energy into this,
Yes,
and you
sir.
you care about what you're doing. I can tell you love this too, which
Oh,
is
yes, yes.
Yeah,
which is
for
awesome.
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
stoked to be a part of it. Um, yeah, it's never really been hard to do that. I think I don't know. I grew up with a stutter and with
Mm,
some other social challenges that I think helped me understand that people are hurting
mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
broken, and people need encouragement. People need hope and to really believe the best in people, even when they're being crappy and terrible.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I'm not a great person when it comes to the end of the day. It's like that's why I'm a Christian, because I
Mhm,
admit that even on my best day, it's not good enough to get me uh, Jesus. And the
mhm,
fact that he knows how messed up I am and he
mhm,
still loves me
mhm.
is the gospel. And
Yes, yes.
so what that does for me, like, I think the stutter and just the way my teenage years went, where I just was constantly looking for affirmation, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
constantly looking to like fit in and be accepted helps me understand and have empathy for the people that are in that position. And so when we write lyrics as a band, I'm in a band with the greatest dudes.
Yeah.
Our goal is to help people, not put them down.
Mhm,
And music is a very powerful tool,
mhm.
It is. Yeah.
a powerful medium that people gravitate towards and find a lot of um, hope in and help through.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, we've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
I've been through stuff personally. Our band has had several iterations. Nothing overly dramatic, but just being in a band for 20 years, you
Yeah.
you have to work through things because
Yeah.
you grow up and you
Right.
change and you find your own way.
Yeah.
And I think that we've done a really good job of figuring out why are we doing this. If it's not to be a Christian band, then that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't be a Christian in a band. In fact, I'm not even sure what a Christian band means, so I think it was good that we defined that.
Us either. Yeah, right, yeah.
So it's like, all right, so why are we doing this? Is it just for the money? That's
Mhm,
that's okay. If it is, then we're just a business. Is it to help people? Is it to write great music? And we've outlined those things over the course of the last, I would say, like 12 years. There was an
mhm,
incident in Australia where
mm,
we had this situation. Sort of, there's like an elephant in the room. We all just need to get to that point of the conversation where we're like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? I want to go home.
Right.
And we hashed it out backstage, and we came out on the other side much better.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, speaking of the band, you guys, all of you are just incredibly talented. I've been a massive fan of yours ever since the first time I heard Composure when I was in high school, and
Thank you
I've
very
been hooked
much.
ever since then. I've had the pleasure of seeing you guys 3 times, and every single time it's just mind blowing. But all of you guys are really known for your technical abilities, and especially you with your drumming techniques that you have. Do you have also the Zildjian live that you did? I just want to say is amazing. I watch it quite frequently.
Thank you.
But there's a friend of mine who we've been a fan of yours for years, and the video of you in the studio recording constellations and doing 30 and 7, we have shared
Oh
that
yeah.
video like annually with each other ever since that video came out. But do
Thank
you
you.
do you have any like non-metal drumming styles or techniques that have influenced your approach behind the kit that some people may find surprising?
Yeah, there's a gentleman named Aaron Spears who passed
Yeah.
away
Hmm.
almost exactly a year ago. His birthday's
Yeah,
coming up on
man.
the
Yeah.
20, I think his birthday is either today or on the 26th, but it's coming
Hmm.
up.
Okay.
Him as a person, amazing person, but just an amazing drummer,
Yeah.
powerhouse, awesome fills, so much pocket.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not a gospel drummer, but there have been some ideas that I've taken from him.
Yeah.
But mostly through and through, I just like the challenge of getting better at drums, and usually that's what motivates me to keep practicing. It's not really other people's drumming or styles. It's usually like I just want to get better, and so I'm going to sit
Hmm.
down and practice, and I figure stuff out when I'm playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Love that.
Um, so you have a podcast, like Blake said, and I do
Yeah.
want to work with you on that one. Maybe we can give you like a like I do want to give if y'all. I would advertise your podcast or our podcast
Yeah.
if we can. That would
Cool.
very, very,
I'm
very.
actually recording an episode after this tonight, like
Oh,
after
cool.
dinner, and I'm going to talk about your podcast on our
Oh,
podcast.
nice. Yes.
So we'll do
Yes.
some cross
What an
promotion.
May we be
honor.
on it?
Oh, man.
In fact, in
All
fact, I'm
right.
going to tell Tim I quit Holy Ghost Notes, and
Yes.
I'm coming over.
And you're welcome to anytime you want to, brother.
I'm
Okay?
coming over. James and Blake are my new
Podcast, this
co-hosts.
is your podcast, brother. All right. So how did the Holy Ghost Notes podcast come out? Because a lot of people have to heard. I want the whole world to hear your podcast. So if you could kindly tell us how that came about,
Yeah, yeah,
that would be
yeah.
great.
So Holy Ghost Notes is a pun, obviously. Holy Ghost, it's a
Mhm.
spiritual uh, term, and Ghost Notes is a drumming term. And so we
Mhm.
talk about faith and we talk about drumming on each
Mhm.
episode. We usually have a drum topic and a faith topic. It is essentially Tim, my co-host, and I pushing record on a phone conversation. We
Right.
have pretty
Yeah.
good gear at this point, so it sounds good and looks good, but the original idea came from talks we used to have in like 2010,
Mhm.
2011, 2012. Growing up in a similar church, the same church actually, and then a similar home, culture, environment, music scene, we would have these like, I don't know, 30-minute or hour-long conversations. And then years went by where we didn't talk and a lot of life happened. And he like
Yeah.
called me out of the blue and he's like, "Hey man, I have this idea. I haven't really talked to anybody like you and had conversations like that since. What do you think about starting a podcast together? Just
Yeah.
with pushing record, and we do a drum topic and a faith topic every 2 weeks,
Mhm.
27 episodes a year. We've been doing that ever since, and we're at like episode 140 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are
Mhm.
killing it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, because
for a while.
I've heard that if you don't record anything above episode 7, you're never going to do it. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the basis. That's the basic episode where people just fall out.
How many episodes are you guys at?
300
360 something.
something like
Yeah.
it. 4
Wow.
years since 2020. Yes, sir.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
Oh
Thank
my
you.
you so much.
gosh.
Yeah,
Thank
it means a
you.
lot
Have
to.
have to give a lot of credit to James. He is like the mastermind behind getting
Yeah.
interviews set up. I hardly ever get to do interviews. I do a lot of like main topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when he reached out to me and said, "Hey, Matt Greiner is going to come on the show," I was
He's
like,
like,
I will,
oh my
I don't care what I'm
God.
doing. I'm going to stop and I'm going to make it happen."
I will be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. All right.
That's cool.
Oh, before you get on the next question, Blake, I
Yeah,
want to help you with
Yeah.
something.
yeah, yeah.
Blake said that he's having trouble playing one of your songs. I think it's whitewash, right? Right,
All
Blake?
of them. I have a
Oh,
hard time playing all of them.
no,
That's
Me
let
too.
me
but
let
there's
me
one
correct you.
specifically, right? Yeah.
It is I will say there's a lot of drummers and bands that I've listened to in the 22 years that I've been playing drums. And there's a lot of people that I draw a lot of influences from. I play in my church more than anything now.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I take some of those influences from some of those drummers, no matter what the genre is, whether it's pop punk or it's metal. It's I kind of like fuse them in every now and then. And but I find myself rewarding myself whenever I like finally figure out a song by a certain band. I'm like, oh yes, finally got
Oh
it.
yeah. Right.
But I have been trying to learn Whitewashed ever since the first time that I've
Yes,
heard it,
whitewash.
just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the intro alone, the drum intro is so amazing. I don't know how else to put it.
Thank you.
And I have been trying to wrap my brain around how to get my legs and my hands to do what you're
That.
doing. So I just want to say, and especially in my life,
Mm,
whitewashed literally has like changed my viewpoint about
mm,
drums and playing music with
mm,
other people and just what you guys are able to accomplish
mm.
is just
Thank you very
amazing.
much.
Yeah.
I'll get you a login, like a 3 month login to my drumming website because
Oh,
I
nice.
Oh my
break
gosh.
down I break down that song actually and a couple others, like 10 other songs. I play
Wow.
it at 75% speed,
Yeah,
88, and then full speed so you can see. The
man.
hardest part in that song is the alternating blast beat between
Yeah.
blast bell and snare where it's
Hmm.
because it's in an odd meter. It's pretty fast blasting for me.
Yeah.
And I practice our entire show
Hmm.
to a click track
Hmm.
typically. And Whitewash is the only song that I need guitar on because when I get
Ah,
to that part, I forget what the cadence is. I
yeah.
forget what the time signature is. And I used to just get off. Like I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know where I am in this blast beat. And I get to the end of the song when the sample comes back in. There's like a drum sample, like an overdub
Yeah.
that I recorded on a little 10-inch tom.
Yeah.
And I can tell if I'm on or not based on where that is. And I'm like, oh
Oh, okay.
crap, I'm one click off. So it's a tough song, man.
Yeah.
All of our songs are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've never gotten easier. We just re-recorded Thrill Seeker from
Yeah.
20 years ago. I actually
Right.
just wrote my thanks for the liner notes, and it's like
Mm,
still hard,
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
hard.
But
Well,
but I guess the saying the saying goes, well, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. You know,
Right.
it's like that kind of so that
yeah.
kind of vibe. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason there's no August Burns Red cover bands is because no one else can do it. So use that. Yeah. Use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I will. I do want to talk about. So another thing with me personally, I grew up in a Christian household, going to church, very involved in a youth group and everything. And as you may know, like when it comes to Christian music in particular, it's not always the best. There are some things where it's like, I don't know, it may be, and it could be for different reasons, cringy, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always put August Burns Red in that category of like, these guys, not only are they heavy as all get out, they have such a positive message with their lyrics. And like, I can't tell you how many how many ABR lyrics I've tweeted in the past 20 years just because there's
Mhm.
something that sticks out to me that I'm like, man, this line hits me hard.
Mhm.
What a great band, especially like everything I have followed personally with you and with Jake. I've read Jake's book a few years ago and just was
Cool.
just truly inspired by a lot of things that he had to say.
That's awesome.
I really appreciate what you guys do and being so open about your faith, and especially the podcast and how
Yeah.
vulnerable you guys can get. But being a Christian, quote unquote, Christian metal band with that label in this particular scene, has that been something that's been a little trying, especially with touring with bands that maybe aren't in that same label, or pressures from churches or anything like that? What have you guys experienced with that?
Yeah, I I think I think that for me personally, there's this um it's hard to articulate. I feel like Tim Keller, the pastor who passed away a
Hmm.
couple years ago, put this in a really profound way. But essentially, it's a C.S. Lewis idea of if you find yourself longing for something and you can't find it here,
Yeah.
then it must mean that there's somewhere else
Hmm.
that you're longing for. And I know that that's a really deep way of saying what I want to say, but I don't know how to get there otherwise. It's like if I'm on tour, I feel like it's just not quite home for me.
Sure.
And then I think, man, when I get home, right,
Hmm.
then I'm really gonna feel content. And then when I get home, I'm home for a little while, it's great, but I still feel that longing for like, I'm in the church, I'm around people who believe similar things, but it's still not quite there.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think, man, no matter where you're at, if you're listening to this and you're immersed in the church culture, and you're really isolated from the secular world around you,
Right.
I wouldn't say that that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the other hand, if you're out in the world and you're really isolated from the church as a Christian, I wouldn't say that that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
And so I think to find the balance of having a network of people who you really trust,
Hmm.
and who really push you and keep you accountable, and want the best for you, and vice versa, right? In a Christian sense. But then also to be outside of your comfort zone if you are a
Yeah.
Christian in the church, and be around people who don't believe the same thing you do,
Hmm.
don't live their lives the same way, and might be watching something or listening to something or doing something that you just completely disagree with.
Hmm.
You talk about a good way to stay humble,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you'll know pretty quickly if you're cocky. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll feel
Right.
that judgment.
Right.
You'll look down your nose, and hopefully eventually you catch yourself and say, who am I to throw this stone? Like, is there anyone innocent among us?
Mm-hmm.
No, of course not. And so you then learn, like, man, that person's actually a better dad than I am, or a better husband than I am. And they're not a Christian. They've never even been inside of a church before. That's
Mm-hmm.
really humbling. And
Yeah.
then when you go home and you're in church, you realize, oh my gosh, some of these people are um, hypocritical or heretical or
Hmm.
Yeah.
bitter or resentful or terrible dads or husbands or
Hmm.
coworkers or bosses, compared to the world that I see when I'm on tour.
Right.
That's been a learning lesson for me. It's humbling, man, because it
Hmm.
really doesn't matter where you are in the world. You, it's it's only important that as a Christian, I realize that I don't deserve this gift I've been given. And to the extent that I realize that, the more I can look around and say, man, you know, I'm gonna look at my neighbor with love and empathy and truth and boldness, right? I'm not just gonna bow down to whatever, like I know what I believe, but it's a
Yeah.
really good thing to not isolate yourself from the world around you. And it's a really good thing, on the other hand, to not isolate yourself from, in a Christian sense, the
Hmm.
church and the community of people who believe the same thing as you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do have two more questions, and then we'll let you go. I know we're pressed on time.
Oh, you're good. You're
Okay.
good.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for
All right.
being respectful of that.
Yes, sir.
Of
Thank you.
course.
Thank you for coming on again. This is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. This is
Tell Tim
great.
we said
I
thank you
love your
too.
podcast.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. I love you for that. All right. So like I said, we have two more questions for you, and they might be the hardest questions we're going to ask
Truly.
today.
Truly.
I mean, because everybody gets stuck with these two questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right. Good. Good. Okay. Mount Rushmore, who is your four favorite of all time groups?
Wow.
Yeah.
Four
Four.
favorite musical groups.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Mount Rushmore.
Your Mount Rushmore of music.
Right.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Wow. Who am I putting up there?
August Burns Red.
Yeah.
You're
I
free
like
to
my
put yourself
band.
on there. Yeah.
They fill up 3
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna say Coldplay is going on the Mount of Rushmore.
Okay.
Okay.
Mount of Rushmore? I gotta get
Sure.
this right.
That's what we're gonna call it from now on.
Restart.
Mount Rushmore.
Um,
Yeah.
Mount of Rushmore. Coldplay. I'm going with I'm gonna go with Meshuggah
Got
Yeah.
you. Got
Okay.
you. Yes,
Cool.
sir.
since those two bands are very alike.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with yeah, this is really tough. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
This
Yes,
is
sir.
tough. I think just I'm gonna kick it back to nostalgia. I'm gonna say Death Cab for Cutie.
Cool.
Perfect.
Oh, and I'm gonna say the Killers.
Perfect.
There we
Okay.
go.
Nice. What
There
a
we
what a
go.
great selection.
So
Yeah.
Death Cab, the Killers, Coldplay, and Meshuggah.
Man, you
Okay.
can't go wrong with
Love that.
either of those, all four,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then I'm going to hit you with this last one. This is
The
this is one
hardest.
we've been asking since day one on this
Okay.
show. So the whole premise of our podcast is we talk about music, we talk about mental health. Both of those are very important to us. We talk a lot about the healing powers that music has and all those properties. And we ask all of our guests this. But do you have a song or an album that can just perfectly describe whatever you may be going through or feeling, and whenever you can't put it into words? Is there something that
Wow.
just says this perfectly describes how I feel right now?
Yeah, I do. I do actually. I haven't listened to it start to finish in a while, but there's an album by a band called Jesus Culture.
Yeah.
Chris Kulala was the
Quesadilla. That's what we
singer.
always call him. Chris Quesadilla.
Quesadilla, I love that. He also played drums. He also played
Yeah.
drums. But that album, it has Your Love Never Fails as track
Yeah.
one. I'm not sure what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's called?
It escapes me. I can look it
Yeah,
up real quick.
you know
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
know
talking about,
exactly what
though.
you're talking about. Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So I listened to that a lot in Europe maybe 14 years ago when I was like really struggling with being homesick and not really sure what I wanted to do, and I would go running and listen to that album.
Yeah.
And so it really stands out to me. And if I were having a tough time, I think I'd go back and listen to that. Or if things were really good too. It's got a bunch of bangers on it.
Yeah, it does.
It's just a really good album.
I just looked it up. It is the Your Love Never Fails live album. So there you go.
It's live too. That's the other thing. It's
live
so
album.
well done.
Incredible.
So perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you say that too. So Jesus Culture has also had a very big influence in my life because there was a band that I had with some friends of mine, some family members of mine that we were like a worship band. We tried to kind of branch out of our home church and go out and play as many places as we could find, festivals,
Yeah.
other churches, things like that. And we always coined ourselves as basically a Jesus Culture cover band because there were so many of their songs where we were just like, let's do this one. Oh, that's Jesus Culture.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Oh, let's do this one. Oh, that's another
exactly.
Jesus Culture song. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you guys what's the point of your podcast? I'm gonna ask you the final question here.
Oh,
What if you were, let's fast forward 20 years
Mhm.
and the podcast has come to an end and you're looking back, you're talking to your, significant other about this
Mhm.
podcast. You're saying, man, I'm so glad that this happened, that this was a result of our podcast. What would that ultimate thing be?
James, you want to go first or would you like me to go first?
You go first.
Okay.
Because
Um,
this is a very hard question. So
this is a very hard question.
yeah,
We
we want
thought
you to
we
be
had
a
the hard
part of our
questions. It
podcast because
just
that is such a great question,
um
man. You are welcome anytime you want to. Yeah, but you go first, like.
I would say so like we mentioned before, like the whole point of this podcast, whenever me and James started it, um, music is a big part of both of our lives. But
Right.
something that me and James have struggled with over the years is depression. Both of us
Yeah.
have kind of been through that. My wife also has struggled with that and some anxiety
Yeah.
issues, and I've seen a lot of this stuff firsthand. And one thing that we can all go back to is saying like, music has always been very important to us. It's always been there for us in very dark
Hmm.
times. And then my relationship with the Lord also has been very very big for those moments. I lost my dad at a young age. I was 16 years old when he passed away, and that's been very tough to deal with
Hmm.
ever since then. And music's always just kind of been one of the constants in my life that could pull me out of a funk, or even if I stayed in that funk, at least I had something that was like, I get what you're going through.
Hmm.
Here is what we're relating to in this way.
Hmm.
So if there is someone who has listened to our show that can say, I listened to this episode that you guys did, and I was in one of the biggest funks of my life.
Hmm.
But what you talked about with whatever subject
Mm,
Hmm.
um, helped me to realize that life isn't as bad as what I am envisioning that it is.
Right.
If there was a way that something that we said, and maybe it was something unintentional and it just happened to be something that James just threw out there, or something I did, or something Amanda did. But if
Right.
someone could look back on it and be like, I was at a point where I didn't see a way out, but
Right.
something that they said changed my perspective,
Yeah.
that to me would just be the ultimate compliment that
That's
someone could
great.
give us. That's better than a 5-star rating on iTunes.
Yep.
That's like that is
Yep.
better than 30 sponsorship deals that we could get.
Right.
Like that would just be the ultimate. Oh, that was the whole point. That was the whole point
Yeah.
of why we started this show. So
yeah,
Yep.
for me personally,
yeah,
That's great. That makes me think of Jesus said I would come back if just for one.
yeah,
yeah.
If I
yeah,
lost if I lost all these people, but
mhm,
there was just one missing, I'd come back for just you. And to
yeah,
know that you could be that one person, that'll just
yeah,
that's just an amazing thought. So the podcast serves as a way to reach everyone, hopefully, but even if just for one, it would be worth it.
yes,
That's what I hear you
absolutely,
saying.
yep,
Yeah.
yep,
And not to piggyback off of the like answer, but I feel like we share the same sentiment because
Yeah.
uh, we just don't want anybody to feel the way we do when we are depressed.
Yeah.
And music
Right.
gets us out of that funkiness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Going to work today, I was kind of down, about going to work because who wants to work, right?
Right.
you know, and I turned on "All I Want for Christmas Is You" by August Burns
August Burns
Red,
Red.
and I could not get enough of it.
Oh
I
That's
was
man,
like,
amazing.
I was like, oh my god, they played the Home Alone theme. What? I mean, that was great. So
Yeah.
yeah, as long as people tune in our podcast just for at least 30 minutes or an hour or however long the podcast is, and it
Yeah.
helps them in some kind of way, hey, that's better than anything we
mhm,
could ever do.
sure,
I'm on board with that, man. That's my hope and prayer for this episode is that it helps one person out.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks so
dude.
much for having me on here. I really appreciate
Oh
it.
my gosh, yes. Thank you so much. What an honor. And we'll definitely have to get you back on at some point.
Oh
Please
yeah.
tell Tim we said thank you so much
I
for
will.
giving us
Absolutely.
a little bit of your time. And look, I love what you guys are doing. Like I said, you're one of my drumming heroes and have been for 20 something years. And this was a huge honor for me personally. And
Thank you for
I
saying that.
of
I
course,
really
man. Yeah.
appreciate that. I am just like you, no different than you. And I hear you say that, and I mean it when I say it means a lot to me. It's not I don't see myself as any different than you, and so I appreciate that, and just know
Yeah,
that if you're listening to this and you feel like you're stuck or you're in a funk or the boogeyman is has got a hold of your head, just hang in there. I
Yeah.
recently had a family member who was going through something like this, and it's really hard to know what to do. And it's also really tough because a lot of people think that they are, isolated from
Yeah.
ever being affected by depression or anxiety, and
Mm.
I just don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there's things we can do to help safeguard ourselves, but we all need to be taking care of each other and taking care of
Yeah.
ourselves. And I hope
Yeah.
this podcast episode serves as some help
Yeah.
in your life.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks,
like I
man.
said before, thank you so much for coming on, sir, and we will work together in your advertisement for your podcast.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then we'll do something with you later on down the road. Yeah, so, all right,
Awesome.
guys. So, everybody listening, I want to thank you so much. And thank you to Matt Greiner for coming on. And always remember when words fail.
Music speaks.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.